Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Badfish here with another episode of Gone Gaming, and we're bringing it back to the beautiful city of San Pedro. If you're new to my channel, San Pedro is my current ongoing Cities Skylines project where I'm attempting to build a realistic West Coast American city from scratch. You can check out the other episodes in the link above. But yeah, we're bringing it back to San Pedro. We got a couple of things. I know I've been putting off doing that low density residential, so I want to get that fleshed out. And also, we are going to be looking at some commercial areas today. And I want to just talk over what my process is for detailing those, because I think they can be a little tricky in the game sometimes. So let's scroll out here and take a look at some of the stuff I'm talking about, what I want to do. So I do want to just fill out the rest of these houses all through this area, basically. I'm not really going to detail them here today. I just want to get them placed down so we have them. Plus, these, it's the American Eclectic pack from the workshop. They already have a ton of props with them, so they actually look really good as is, but I do want to add in some trees to some of these bald areas, etc. The big thing I want to tackle today, though, is, so we have this really nice commercial area here. It looks awesome. I really like it. But over here, it's just, you know, the base way that they lay out commercial. It's what the game does when you paint down, and it doesn't look as great. You know, there's not a lot of space in between buildings. It's not really realistic. So I'm going to go through that first. We're going to basically wipe all this out and just start from scratch and remake it. So we're going to jump into a time lapse here, guys. I hope you enjoy the build. Let me know, what you guys do to detail commercial and things like that, and I'm gonna go through my process and hopefully we come up with something cool. So I was being way too generous in that intro there. The way this was set up beforehand looked like hot trash. It did not look good. I understand why the game sets up the buildings that way. They want to have as much density as possible, but oh boy, it's not the look I'm going for. So I'm just starting out placing down some different buildings. I have a bunch of different assets, so I try to keep there's some good variety between what buildings I put down. So there's going to be some restaurants, a couple like auto stores, and I think a couple like box stores and a grocery store, just to try to keep it a little bit different. Right now I'm just testing out some different bushes to put in here. Unfortunately, all of them are absolutely massive, and you're gonna see me literally put down like 100 of these. It's wild. So I finally get the ones I like, and then we get there. But there was way too much going on. So like I said, just putting down some different restaurants, things that I feel like would be in like a California or just any kind of, West Coast, so Oregon, Washington. So you got your Starbucks, of course, because they took over the world out there, Burger King, fast food stores, and now, just putting in little drive-through lines so people don't, go through and veer off and crash into those tables, and we have, a horrible crime on our hands. We don't want that. We just want people to be able to get okay coffee. So we're going to fix that up, put in some lines there, make it look a little more realistic. I'm going to do this to a couple of buildings. I don't go this involved on all of them because, honestly, creating drive-through lines is a bit of a pain and kind of boring. And I need to get better lines, too. I'm repurposing highway lines, I think, and it looks okay. It doesn't look great. And then just, of course, putting down those green umbrellas. And I was like, Starbucks is definitely bougie enough to have a hedge, so I popped that in, too. I'm going to put down a Burger King later. Burger King does not get a hedge. Burger King would not hedge it out. But, it is what it is. And then we're going to put a Dunkin' Donuts on this side eventually. I like the idea of rival coffee shops. I'm into that. So the coffee shops are battling each other for supremacy. Since it is the West Coast, I'm assuming Dunkin's is probably losing that battle. But, hey, there's 1,000 Dunkin's on every corner where I live, so they're doing all right. So we're just popping these down, again, making some more lines. I end up giving up on this one because it just is not, it's not the look. So I just throw a couple planners on. And again, those planners aren't really important for me. I think they just add a lot to a space. So I did want to just talk about like my actual process for commercial spaces, right? So when you paint down commercial, as I'm sure all of you know, you're gonna just get, like anything in this game, a bunch of bunched up buildings, which, you know, looks fine with high density. Low density, not so much, but again, we work with what we get. So my process when I'm trying to make like a detailed, realistic commercial area, again, as with everything, the deleting tool, the bulldozer, it's your friend. Don't be afraid to use it. Go in, get some of those buildings out there, and then again, just, you know, like I did, place a couple down, rotate them a little bit, use different size buildings to get like a breakup, because you don't want it to just look square, 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 square. You want it to have different angles, different buildings that create a lot of different shapes to make it more pleasing to the eye. And you want to leave that open area, because if you think about like any low density commercial, and obviously there's an absolute load of low density commercial pretty much anywhere you are, there is space for those buildings. They need parking, they need outdoor space, they need places to put trash. So they're not going to be all just right on top of each other. So when I'm doing my commercial stuff, that's what I try to focus in on, is like the stores I've been to, what they look like, how they operate, and like what kind of space they need. So you're going to see me putting down like a lot of parking lots. I put down a couple loading trucks. I did realize that there was parts for loading trucks back here, so I try to cover those up a little bit with recycling, because I'm not going to just put the loading trucks right into the road. And you know, sometimes people are gonna have to walk by trash in the city, so it's a little realistic. Yeah, you know, we got trash, it happens. So yeah, parking lots looking good. I like using static parking lots, honestly. The working parking lots are great, but sometimes they can just be a little wonky with how they're laid out and how cars get to them. So I just think static parking lots look nice, and you can obviously pick different cars to go in them. And I put that purple tree there. I have no idea if that's indigenous to this, but I was like, you know what, the Piggly Wiggly is gonna have a purple tree. Purple tree for Piggly Wiggly. And now you'll just see me placing down a bunch of cars for a Citroen dealership. Don't tell anyone, but I don't actually have any Citroen car assets. I'm sure there's gonna be some like really angry European gearheads watching this video at some point, maybe. And I'm using Peugeots to make the majority of the line of cars for sale, so they might get a little upset with that. But hey, I like Top Gear, so don't you know, hate me yet. And I wanted to make like a little showpiece car, so I made a little show place for one of the Peugeots. I put in some lights and stuff. I'll try to get some actual Citroen, whatever it is, cars, and put them in here so it looks a little more, well, realistic, I guess. But I wanted to make it like a cool little showpiece, so I made this up planner, popped it up on it, and then put a bunch of tulips around to add some color. I think it ends up looking pretty cool. I didn't want to do like one of those like, this car can climb mountains kind of things that you see with certain car dealerships where they have like the car on a bunch of rocks trying to climb something, because Peugeots don't do that. That's not their life. So I just tried to just make it pretty around it, draw your eye a little bit, and then of course just having that extra space for parking and things like that. Changing up parking lots a little bit, using those bumpers and putting in obviously the planners and stuff. What's awesome about these planners is they clip into each other perfectly, so there's never size it can't match. So it's really good for squaring things up and making them very symmetrical. So that's another great use of those. I kind of use them as like a ruler. But yeah, just leaving space is so important. Having unique and interesting angles with your building. So using Move It is a huge tool. Like when you don't have Move It, so if you're on PC, get Move It now if you don't have it. If you're on console, I'm so sorry, but you can still do awesome stuff on console. There's still great ideas there, so I'm not knocking that. So don't go crucifying me there. But I think, you know, as far as Move It goes, it allows you to twist around buildings, so it's not always front to back, you know, side to side, squared up to the road. You can have them at angles, you can have them on corners, and it just, again, it makes it so much more realistic because buildings are laid out like that. Like, our human architects are weird sometimes, or our human municipal planners are weird sometimes, or just the way things grow organically is weird sometimes. So it's okay to have weird stuff in weird angles in your city. In fact, I would venture as far as to say it's important. So just putting down some more happy little trees there to make everything look a little bit nicer, and just bring a little more green to this area because it is full of concrete. I think just having that little pop really does something. I don't know what that something is, but it does something. And like I said, these things clip so well, so I just pop another one in, able to line it up real good. Looks awesome. And I'm just throwing some cars in the drive-thrus and stuff. And then this is where it starts getting a little bit tricky, because I didn't realize how much of a hill this was at first. So that was a bit of a problem for me. I had to kind of figure that out and what I was going to do about it. Because I am not great with the terraforming tool in this game. Me and it have issues. Honestly, my last episode was a huge win for me, because being able to terraform an island was something I always wanted to try. But honestly, like you saw in the video, I mean, I still created tons of tidal waves and didn't get things exactly right. But it ended up working, and it's not going underwater now, and it looks great. When before, like when I've tried terraforming, I end up putting like half my city underwater sometimes. I mean, I'm sure we've all been there. It happens. So I didn't really, like, I tried to smooth this out a little bit, but it didn't end up working. So what I did was I actually took a big chunk of concrete out, and you're going to see me put a lot of damage around that. So I wanted it to look like there's like this little bit of tree patch that I'm going to put in here. I wanted to look like it's growing outwards, and they've just been letting it grow, and it's starting to bulge out and rip up parts of the concrete as it grows outwards with the root systems. I thought that would be a kind of like a cool little detail and a good way to combat the wonkiness of trying to put buildings down on this giant hill. And I think the buildings we do put down end up looking pretty good once it's all said and done. Like you can see the dip right here on the left side of this building. You know, it's not necessarily unrealistic. I've definitely seen buildings that have alleyways that dip down like that, but I didn't want to put a bunch of buildings that have a ton of clipping. So now just putting some extra details on the buildings. Of course, the good old parking lots, putting some damage down just to make it look a little rougher, like this is a well-traveled area. Putting some tiles down just to make the entrances a little bit prettier. I couldn't get this one to work the way I wanted to, so I ended up switching that out. And eventually, you don't see me in this time lapse putting lights down, so I do apologize. That's something I realized after the fact at like 3 a.m. last night, that I never put lights in half these parking lots. So in the cinematic at the end, you will see some more lighting. So that is something that will come. So if you don't see it in this time lapse, don't worry. My Sims are not walking around blind in the dark, getting mugged. It's bright. It looks good. It's well lit. And then right here, I'm pretty much done with the commercial area at this point, and I just wanted to start popping down those residential houses, because I've been saying I'm going to do that for like the past 3 episodes. And as much as I hate low density residential and trying to make good looking suburbs, I think it turns out okay even with just the plopped houses. So I'm actually not going to be detailing in this episode. It just would have made this video way too long if I had done that as well. But in the next episode, I will start detailing a lot of this. It's mainly just going to be me putting down trees, to be honest with you. Like I said earlier, these buildings already have a ton of props with them. You can see it as I'm placing them down. They have like pools, decks, grilling spots, driveways. So there's a lot of detailing work already done in the base assets as they are off the workshop. So that's awesome to have that as a base. I will definitely add some different unique things to some of the buildings, and like I said, just kind of put trees in to flesh it out a little bit more and just make it look like a more grown-up suburb. Right here I realized I had proper tree anarchy on, so there was a bunch of trees popping out of my houses, so I was just taking a minute to correct that. So that's always something to look out for when you're detailing. Remember, prop and tree anarchy is your friend, but also your greatest enemy, because you can have legit, especially on forested maps. Oh my gee. Oof. On forested maps, it gets rough, let me tell you. I was working on this map that I think was based in Alaska, and I forgot prop and tree anarchy on. I built a whole suburb, and it literally looked like the attack of the tree ants. Like, it was rough. It did not look good. So I had to like go through and delete everything and then rebuild everything, which was a pain, and a lesson learned, but obviously not well enough because I'm still doing it. But hey, we live, we learn, we try to figure things out, and half the time we don't. But hey, that's life, we move on. So just plopping down the last few houses, you're gonna notice I do leave the left side of the left side of the suburb across, so you go under the highway. I'm leaving that bare. That's intentional. I think what I want to do eventually is put like a more low income area on that side. I mean, that's just the reality of cities. You're gonna have your more posh suburbs, your downtown, you're going to have your lower income areas. So I did want to, not ignore that aspect of cities. I know I've been trying to make San Pedro really lovely and beautiful, but I also want to have that realistic part to it. So I think that's going to be our next goal. And then at this point right now, I am just cleaning up the highway. I did have a viewer who mentioned that he didn't think the highway would stretch down into that peninsula like that. And honestly, since I heard that comment, I was like, that's so true. Like, it looks ridiculous. Like, I couldn't stop looking at it. So I went in and fixed up the highway system, just made it a little smoother. I actually took out an entire exit, so there's only 2 exits servicing the actual city now. But we're still sitting at like 83% traffic, so I'm not really worried about it. I think it ends up okay. And then here you'll just see me again, as I always do, checking the overpass, making sure there's not concrete pillars trying to kill all of my Sims as they drive under the overpass. But yeah, I think it looks better, a little more smooth as to where the highway's placed, and just makes it flow a little bit better. But we are nearing the end of the time lapse, guys. I'm going to let the music play out, and then at the end of the cinematic, at the end of the video, I'll check back in with you, let you know what's going on with the future of this channel. See you there. Alright guys, well that's just gonna about do it for this episode of Gone Gaming. As always, my name's Badfish, and I just want to say I really appreciate you watching my videos. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like down below. If you want to see more of my stuff, more Cities Skylines, more gaming in general, definitely consider subscribing to my channel. I'll leave a link to that down below as well. And I hope you're doing well. I know it's a crazy world out there. Stay safe.